this truly is our moment, which is clear by the energy and the number of people that are in the space. For me, I just want to, as people are coming to settle in, help to ground it a little bit with my own personal experience before we open it up to this amazing panel. And when I talk about this moment, for me, this moment has been in the making for decades. For me, it started 15 years ago during the Obama administration. I was a director at a Cerna Foundation, which is a national funder. And at that time, there was a call to action by the administration to say, hey, we need your support because we have this ambitious agenda to advance just and sustainable communities. And we want to be able to really lean into this moment. And one of the reasons that they had reached out to philanthropy, because philanthropy supported and seeded 1,000 flowers to bloom on the sustainability front. And for me personally, I was just like, oh, we got the Just Peace too? This is going to be great. This is what we have imagined for so many years. But what was interesting in that experience and what I told was that whether it was work that we were seeing in Atlanta or work we were seeing in New Orleans, we were tinkering on the sustainability piece because we never really centered equity. We never really acknowledged the past harm that much of the infrastructure decisions that had been made in the past were actually contributing to. So when the sustainability call to action happened, all we did was green things, but there was still a deep level of inequities that were there. So when the Biden administration came and out the gate talked about racial equity, as Matt and Stephanie said, I was like, oh, okay, we can check that off. We don't have to convince this administration to do it. They are ready and they are committed. And what was even more surprising was they actually, as Stephanie said, put their money on the table. Because a lot of times, the proposition to do more, to do different, to actually invest in people in place in a different way, the rhetoric was always, well, we just don't have the resources. We have the aspirations, but we don't have the resources. So what is interesting is that we have nearly $4 trillion to actually implement on the ideas. And that is unprecedented. So for the first time, what we will have is the ability for Native communities, for communities of color, whether it is communities that have been marginalized for years, have the ability to now have the resources match their visions, their state plans, and come together to foster a just and sustainable community in a way we've never seen before. So once again, I will say, this is our moment, and we, as a community, must come together in order to meet this moment. And this panel represents the actors who make up this rich ecosystem of what is possible, because they have done it over decades, showing what is possible. But in addition to that, have also, are we taking a left turn somewhere? All right, I heard Siri saying something. All right. So, that's right. That's what I'm talking about, sister. So this panel will share the collective wisdom of what it means to meet this moment, what the groundwork that they have laid, and where they're ready to lean in this moment. So with that, I'm going to allow each of the presenters to present themselves. But joining us today will be Deborah Scott from Georgia Stand Up, Dwayne Patterson from the Reynolds Babcock Foundation, and Jennifer Weiss from the North Carolina Clean Energy Fund. With that, I'd love to start with Ms. Deborah.
This is what community looks like. Show me what community looks like. Show me what community looks like. This is what community looks like. This is what community looks like. So if you have been at these tables or on the menu for the last 10 or 15 years, say yay. Yay. All right. We're one of those groups. Georgia Stand Up, and I'm glad that you started with 15 years ago because I remember us at the table and you funded us. And we had such great promise. So part of to share is we have to stick to it, y'all. It's the long haul. So when we first started, Georgia Stand Up is a think and act tank for working communities, and we're in Georgia. And we had this terrific idea after a city council member challenged us when we were trying to get community benefits on a major project, and they said, but these communities are not trained, they're not qualified. They're gonna hold up the projects for the developers. And so we said, bet, we'll come back, give me 100 days. You remember, Allison. Give us 100 days, we'll come back with 100 people that are qualified for these jobs. So we started our pre-apprenticeship program, which is called Trade Up. But in our partnership is with, or was with, the trades. Any building trades guys in here and women in here, labor, organized labor. So we have a deep partnership with labor. They actually helped to start our organization. But we kept hearing things like, but our guys are on the bench. So if their guys are on the bench, which means they're waiting for the jobs, that means our guys were not even close to the bench, right? So we had to figure out how to shift and pivot. We had 300 people trained. How do we get them jobs? So we started looking at opportunities and started creating opportunities. So whether it was trash-free waters and cleaning up Proctor Creek, or whether it was cleaning up Vine City, English Avenue, whether it was dismantling houses or deconstructing houses, we had to figure out a way what to do with our people. I see Reggie in the room, and I see it's almost 15 years later. Now these same folks are now creating jobs for themselves. We're now co-creating what we're calling energy collectors. Where's Felicia Davis from HBCU Green Fund? She helped to bring a collaboration together so that we can take our workforce guys with the energy folks and figure out a way to pipeline them into these jobs. This would not have happened 10 or 15 years ago if we had not continued on. Whether there was money on the table, because we had such great promise of money from the Obama administration that never came. We started the Emerald Cities table in Atlanta. The money never came, right? So 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 75,000 is nice, but that's just a drop in the bucket. But if we stopped along the way over these last 10 years, then we wouldn't have a movement center building, which is 10,000 square feet that our guys actually built, right, or actually reconstructed. We would not have these data collection jobs right now. We would not be working in 2 or 3 parks right now in our communities. Because we had to shift and pivot and move forward. So we didn't use the money as an excuse not to do the work. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm up here is just to give you a little hope and encouragement, because having a 501c3 and then another 501c3 and then, yeah, you need a C4 as well to knock on those doors. We're looking at the pipeline of young people from 18 to 34, not just on the doors, but when they get off the doors, how do we get them in real jobs? And so I'm proud to say, and I see some folks that were here and were in Augusta. If you were in Augusta last week when Joe Biden came, when this administration calls and says, we've been working on this project, but we want community-based organizations in the room, because that's what's missing between the pre-apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship programs and the technical colleges. This is our time, this is our opportunity to make the difference that we've been seeking. So I was in the community room and I heard all the things, and I understand and support you. We need to collaborate, we need to organize together in each and every city, and then across this entire state, and then across the region. So we can't just come together at convenings like this, which this is wonderful. We're so glad we're here. But after we leave here, we have to go home and do the real work, because we have to get the what? Money, right? So one of the things that we've learned over this process is, one, it is hard to navigate with this federal government. And you all are making it easy, but then we're on 6:30 calls at night to learn technical support on these grants. We need resources. We need resources and technical support right now. So if there's funders in the room, say, hey. Hey. All right. So what we need, Dwayne, is multi-year general support funding. Because we have to hire grant writers. We have to hire people to practice money. We don't have the capacity in most of our organizations to do this, as we have 3 or 4 other jobs that at the same time. So we need money now. I like that direct pay, like now, money now, and more money now, so that we can get the money for now and later. This is our moment, this is our time, but I would say it's up to us. As our friend Hank Stewart always says, it's up to us, and if it's not, it's our fault if we don't take advantage of this moment. So it's a moment, it's a movement, but we have to take advantage of it, and I'll pass the mic.
Thank you for that. Y'all fired up? Okay. Love you. Okay. Okay, money man.
So, hey y'all, how y'all doing? I said, hey y'all, how y'all doing? Okay, I got a Baptist background, and this is home dirt for me. My people from Robeson County. So somebody said, what's up? And this is Aggie land, whether y'all like it or not. Aggie pride. So just to be real crystal clear, this time that we're meeting is laced with three things, and y'all can say it after me: blood, sweat, and tears. Blood, sweat, and tears have already been laid. The foundation has already been laid in the work that we're finally getting an opportunity to do. As an organizer, and that's how I entered into this work, is as an organizer. This is where I organize in North Kakalaki, right? Being real clear, this is where I cut my teeth. There are issues, there are projects that were on the table then. My babies have graduated from A&T, Aggie Pride, 23 years later. And those projects are still pending. So now is the time. We are meeting the moment through this particular lens. The work of the Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundation has been committed to community for over 70 years. We have a network of partners that have done the work, who are doing the work, and they have committed to doing the work in this place that we call the American South. And they also have been committed to doing the work anyhow, for years, whether we fund them or not. And so the only thing that we can do as the Babcock Foundation is back to people who are doing the work, who've already given what? Exactly. So as we move this thing, as this thing moves towards being realized, we're not going to stop just because we have dollars. We want to stop when there's, somebody said a real crazy word earlier, and that was liberation. Right? So we're moving at the speed of trust. So there are some relationships that have to get right. Or can I just start talking about that part? Right? Because if we're going to be functional and actually get some things done, there's some conversations that have to be had. Right? There's some A&T folk that got to talk to FAMU folk. Right? There's some Howard folk that got to talk to A&T folk. Right? There's some AUC folk that got to talk to A&T folk. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, we got to work this thing out in a way that where it makes sense for the communities that we come from. If we say we care about these communities, that means we have to care enough to solve the problems that matter to us, right? And so collaboration cannot really happen if there's not trust, right? And I'm not talking about the performative stuff, right? There are folks that I come from, people who are my big mamas in this work, my big daddies in this work. They are in real relationship. These are the folks we call the civil rights all-stars, right? You can look in all your books and they're there, but if you look in their cell phone, they have each other's cell phone numbers. They can't see it because they tell me to dial it. Dial that number, boy. But they've been in relationship for 55 years. Real relationship. That's where we have to begin this work, is developing functional relationships, right? You're not going to love everybody, but the one thing I learned in organizing is work purifies relationships. This is a whole lot of work. You may not see things the way I see them, right? And through a funding lens, we want folks who are working together. I don't really care if you like it, right? Because it's to the benefit of the community. Because what has already been given? That's why we got to do this work. And that's why we have to do it in this particular way. The way the work has to happen in the South has to happen in a very particular way. There are other places in this country who have done a lot with a lot. We've done a lot with very little. And for the first time, we can do the work with a lot. It's not going to be enough, but we can do it. We can do it right.
North Carolina, but you are Georgia too, right?
I'm Georgia all day.
Organized together.
Organized. So I cut my teeth in North Carolina as a scholar student at North Carolina A&T, but North Carolina brought me to Georgia when I started working for SRC, Southern Regional Council. So there's always a connection. There's always a connection. The South is the South.
Thank you for that. I do not know how to follow this. You're all packed. All right, I'll be quick because I want to hear more from these two over here. So, hi everyone. I'm Jen Weiss. I am the co-director of the North Carolina Clean Energy Fund. Is Melissa Malcolm Weber in? I think she might have had to step out. Okay, if you can meet Melissa, she's my co-director. We are a nonprofit green bank, and so you heard talk a little bit earlier about all that $27 billion in money that's coming from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. We want to be a part of that. We want to share that with all of you. I am so glad you used the word ecosystem because that's what this is. This is an ecosystem of partners, and I'm going to say partner a lot. That might be my word. It won't be blood, sweat, and tears, but I'll say partnerships over and over and over again on this panel. It is so important to have partnerships. I was trying to decide as you two were talking about what my story would be, so I'm going to use a story of perseverance. So I'm a recovering banker. Any other recovering banker? Yes! I was in banking for years and years and years and decided that's not where I wanted to be. It just didn't seem like the right place for me, and so I moved over into the environmental space. Got involved in policy, energy efficiency, renewable energy, all sorts of great things. And I had a lot of different jobs along the way. Those of you that know me keep saying she keeps changing her email address. You can't find her anymore. But along the way, so I went to Duke. I got my master's in environmental management. And what I decided I wanted to do was combine my love of the environment and of making sure that everything, clean energy, is available to everyone with my financial background. And I started hearing about these things called green banks. And what green banks do, if you haven't heard of them, is we fill gaps in the financial marketplace. So there are obviously lots of great financial institutions in the world doing great things, but they miss a lot of people. And I know you all know that in this room. A lot of people cannot access the financing that they need in order to do the clean energy projects that they need to. And so I saw that. This was 10 years ago. And so I started to figure out, like, how can we connect these two together? The money's out there, and the need is out there, but we're just not making that connection today. So I started learning about green banks, and this was 10 years ago. And through my different roles, I participated in my friends from the Department of Environmental Quality are here. They ran a great stakeholder process for a clean energy plan here in North Carolina. At the same time, we ran an energy efficiency roadmap, trying to figure out how can we move all these things forward. And every time, one of the critical pieces was how do you finance this transition, and how do you make it accessible to everyone to be able to come along with us. Fast forward, I started to do more work in energy and security. I loved what people earlier said. You cannot think about energy in its own silo. That is not the way people think. That is not the way people live. You have to think about everything else that is affecting them, whether it's housing, whether it's food, whether it's health. It all has to be considered together. So started to think about energy with the larger focus on energy and security. So how do we do things that change, not only improve our energy perspective, but also improve everything else? And then I moved over to the Department of Transportation, NCDOT. I love the Clean Transportation Plan. Again, going out, listening to stakeholders, what do we need in the transportation sector? Well, how can we improve this? How can we make this better for everyone? And again, I heard financing. We need money. We need to be able to invest in all of this. And so I'm hearing this money all the time, and I also know that there is money available, and the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law really makes that clear. So in March,
March of 2023, I was able to step into the role of co-director of this wonderful clean energy fund, and I have to thank the funders that are in the room because 2 of you are here. Thank you, and I'd love to talk to you later, Dwayne. But their funding became available to enable me to step into my dream job to co-direct the Clean Energy Fund in order to lead the transition of making financing accessible to everyone to do the things that we need to do. And so I'll leave you with this. We at the Clean Energy Fund want to be doing all of the things that Stephanie was showing before. We want to be getting that money here in North Carolina, and there's our sister and brother Green Banks want to be doing it across the Southeast. We need your help in uncovering the needs, because the last thing that we want to happen is to take all of that great funding and not have it make the impact that it needs to have. And so I'm going to reiterate exactly what my 2 partners up here have said. Step up now. This is the pivotal moment. Let your voice be heard. Let us hear what you need, because we can design programs to help, but we need to hear where those needs are so that we design them effectively. So,
I was trying to take notes while you guys were talking. What's going to be key in this moment, and which you have created a foundation around the work that you've done, has been translating that blood, sweat, and tears into relationships, partnerships, and perseverance. And without that, we actually don't have the conditions that we need to be able to meet this moment. I want to give space because we've been talking at you a little bit, to let folks ask 1 or 2 questions. I want to kick it off with a question though, because what is different than most places that we go to is that what I know to be true is, like, when we think about the South, this is a place where, unfortunately, we double down on what pain looks like, and we practice it. So when we say we are going to disinvest in a place, we do it really well here. So, and we have folks that are in the room that represent communities like within Alabama and in Mississippi. And I was talking to some folks, and they were just like I'm here today, but like what I'm living with in this moment of abundance is my water's getting cut off for like the whole town. Right. So the question that I'm holding for us is, how do we think about making sure that those communities remain in the center, and what do we want to put upon? Because this is a great opportunity, because we have so many public sector partners, to be able to encourage them to help them see those places.
So I would say, 1, we have to relationship map, right? I was looking at the sign-in sheet that they passed out. And if you look at that list, you'll see partners, you'll see financial institutions, you'll see funders, right? Let's dig where we are and start where we are now. Is there a relationship right now that you need in this room? Yes, right? So we have community organizations that need technical support. We have governmental agencies that need projects, right? And we need funders that need to give us some more money, right? And so the conversation, this is a gumbo waiting to happen. You all have to put all the ingredients on the counter, and it's up to us to put it together. And so I think that that's what this moment is about, is how you all can help us make this delicious gumbo when we've been starving, right? Who's been starving? Yeah, so those are the ones I'm here for you, right? We've been broke and starving at the same time, but still doing the work. Who's been doing this work at their kitchen table, right? With $2, right? And then with a grandmother or mother baking the pies, all of the things, right? So this is our moment. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. This is the moment that they dreamt of. This is our reparations. We might just not call it that, right? But this is our time. So now is the time for us to dig deep. The bamboo is already in the ground. It's about to come up. We have what? How many weeks, Stephanie, for that bamboo to come up? It's time for us, right? It's time for us to reap the benefits of not only of this generation, but our mamas, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, and all those that have been brought to this country enslaved, right? This is our time. So this is our money, and we got to go get it. Can we go get it together?
Let's go get it.
And I think that's what you want us to really take away from this convening is, the money's there, but we have to get it together. We can only get it if we do it together, right? So that's the key message.
That is the key message.
And the one piece that philanthropy has to be clear about is that, if we're going to build this thing in a powerful way, that we have to build it through an organizing lens. And if we're building power through an organizing lens, we organize people, we organize money, and we organize ideas, right? And so that money piece is where we that's our little square, right? And so that means that those who are in philanthropy, we got to work together in a way that has never happened before. We have to meet the moment where this time, it has to be different. It's got to be different this time. We can't ask people to, just one more time, just do it one more time. This has to be different this time. We have to be able to leverage our resources as an organization so the money can be in place. So when the frontline organizations are ready to move, they can move without trepidation, right? We have to fund them like we want them to win. We have to fund them, and just for the record, just to be real clear, to be 100% clear, Babcock has always been on the cutting edge of this social justice work. We started giving unrestricted funding way before this. Anybody who's received Babcock funding know that you get a check and then that's it. Day one, if you get $150,000, day one you get $150,000. There's no, give me 3 paragraphs and then you get another $150,000. It doesn't work that way. And so we want to reduce the barriers. So if you are a funder, one of our sub-requirements in the work that we do as a foundation is to bring more money to the American South. That's our unstated, stated commission. That we have to be committed to that because we know we can't fund this thing in the way that we want to. We don't have enough money. But we know some of our friends do. Some of y'all got some real money. Y'all got money. Right? And so it's important to be able to work with your friends and work with your allies and make some new friends to leverage this moment, to leverage this time, and to push like never before.
So organize money and organize people. Right?
All right, then I'll deploy. Deploy effectively. One of the things I didn't talk about, but I want to give kudos out to my friends at the State Energy Office. The North Carolina Clean Energy Fund partnered with them on the Solar for All application. You saw Stephanie before was talking about the $7 billion that was available to states for solar programs for low-income households. And one of the things we did was put our application together to support 20,000 low-income households receiving solar for their homes. 20,000 households. This is what our application is. But we cannot do that alone. And so if we are awarded the funds, where are my EPA friends? If we are awarded the funds, it's going to take all of you to help us deploy that, to figure out the neighborhoods it needs to go into, to work to educate people. Because we could get the money and then fail miserably and not deploy it effectively, and we don't want that to happen. And so I am asking for all of your assistance in how we deploy that funding. Not only the Solar for All, but also the carbon pollution reduction grants are also going through the Department of Environmental Quality. Right now, they are doing feedback sessions and listening sessions. They want to hear from you about how they should be writing their plan. How should they be implementing that huge amount of money that they could be receiving? And so I think, yes, organizing, yes, fundraising, but also we need to be deploying because if we do this wrong, we're not going to get a second chance. So let's do this right. Let's do this right together.
We're not going to get a second chance, and it's going to be baked in for a generation. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to if somebody has like a burning question that they want to be able to ask, we have 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I saw that hand and this hand. So be cognizant that this brother also wants to ask a question. Okay. All right.
Indeed. I was raised right. So when you talked about the Solar for All, right? I'm a part of an organization, Sustainable Georgia Futures. We go out, we canvass, we're doing weatherization in the highest energy burden areas in Atlanta, right? So it's difficult to get solar when your foundation of your home is not right? So we're seeing people, even with the energy retrofits, that we're doing a pilot program up to $4,000 that they can get on it. A lot of homes can't afford to get that because of redlining, divestment, all of those things. someone talked about the way that we fund in the South. In Georgia, we have a state minimum wage of $5.15 an hour, okay? So the thing about it is like, so I'm a little concerned because when you look at most Black nonprofits, we're operating on a budget of less than $500K, okay? And if we lose one funder, we might have to close down, okay? So, and my organization runs with a fiscal sponsor, so I can pay, because I come out of labor, my workers good, my people who work with me well, so I don't have to pay a whole department for administrative stuff. And it's difficult for us to access this fund being fiscally sponsored. So there are all of these systems. You say that you guys are working with us, but there are still all of these hoops and things that we have to jump, and yet we're doing the work, and we can't access it. So that's my concern. It's more of a concern, and I wanted to know if anybody can address it.
So, and I'm gonna let you ask your question too, and then maybe we'll bundle it. But the other thing to hold on the Solar for All is that we're going to have tomorrow a whole presentation and breakout sessions to actually walk through that, because 100% of that money has to go to disadvantaged communities, and systems are actually been baked into that to ensure that that has happened. But we'll unpack that more. But ask your question, and then Jennifer may be able to answer that in a little more detail.
Thank you. I think Stephanie said it, especially when we had it about all the money that was up there. If we don't jump on board, we'll end up having to organize against these projects. One of the questions I wanted to ask, Scripture talks about a wise man saves up money for his children's children. We know we didn't get here overnight, and even though all this amazing money is going to come out, that's still not going to get us out of this hole that we've been in for years. So my question is, because the Native American, I'm glad they did that land acknowledgement. Some Native American tribes have a concept of 7 generations. We don't operate and make a decision unless we think 7 generations ahead and 7 generations behind us. As opposed to funding and community, how do we make sure we're operating in that 7 generational thought process with funding and our funders and with community organizations?
So let's do the Solar for All, keep it condensed, and know that there's a part 2 tomorrow, and then we'll take the other question.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for the work that you do. And one of the things, especially for the North Carolina Solar for All, I can only speak to that. One of the things that we tried to work into it was 2 things. One is recognizing that there are health and safety issues that need to be done to a house in order to make it ready for energy efficiency or solar. And so to the extent we can build off of already existing programs like the Weatherization Assistance Program and LIHEAP, we're going to do that. For those homes that really just need those other health and safeties, the Clean Energy Funds and the Green Banks are trying to work on ways to fund those in an affordable way so that we can get the houses ready for those next pieces. And the other thing I wanted to add about our Solar for All, and this was in our application, is that we tried to set aside as much as we could as stipends for community organizations to work with us, recognizing to your point that there's a lot of other things that community organizations need to be working on, and it doesn't include energy. And so if we want your time, if we want your valued wisdom, we need to be able to subsidize you for that. So we're trying to work on that in order. I know it's not perfect, but we're trying to get there.
So recap, what I'm hearing is there are 3 components to the Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reduction Fund. The first is Solar for All. That money is for being able to put solar, but the federal government has been very clear. They're not going to put a solar array on top of a roof that is about to fall in. So the other 2 pots, which are the, and sorry I don't even know the acronyms, the NCRF and the CCRA, those dollars create the wraparound services that are going to be necessary to make sure that that is a healthy entity. And then I thought one of the things that you said, and which is what we've seen and advocated in applications, is anyone who has applied for resources like technical assistance providers, because there is discretionary resources like the overhead, folks have factored in being able to do sub-grants to entities that can contract and don't necessarily have to be a 501c3. And it sounds like in North Carolina that was done, but maybe we can investigate what happened in Georgia And then to the question around how do we think about 7 generations ahead and behind, and how does philanthropy, as fickle as it is, think about that in this moment when there are dollars on the table that is actually short term?
So what I'm hearing is Sankofa, you look behind as you move ahead. So I think we don't have the luxury of dreaming. And so one of the things that I would like to encourage us to do is dream big about what the next 7 generations looks like, and then organize to that, whether there's money for it or not. So if we know that, you know, our communities are suffering, but also they're growing at the same time, that 18 to 34-year-olds are growing our economy, and they're going to be the ones in charge, those are the ones we have to invest in. So we have to invest in the next generation, the now generation. Is there anyone in here under 30? Right, so that we're investing in you. That's how we continue to invest. Because if we don't bring a young person with us to learn this, then we're repeating the cycle that happened to us, right? That we're left out of the conversation. So we have to bring them, we bring the Rachel Carrolls in the room, right? Shout out to Melanie Campbell and Black Women's Roundtable and Helen Butler. We travel in a pack, right? We bring them with us because we have to educate them, right? And we have to create opportunities. So if you have one position and you could create 5 internships, do that, because you have to teach the next generation. So I would say plan and plan big, and then work your plan backwards, and then have relationships that go beyond the now. And then, as I shift to you, organize that money, right? Because you have a plan. So look at your community and all the things that need to be fixed, and then say, who can help me with this? Whether it's your sidewalk, whether it's the roof on the building, whether it's a community park. How do we take space? How do we take back space? But then how do we fund it?
That's right. I think you're lifting up the spirit of Sankofa. Go back and fetch it. And one of the things that I learned working in both rural parts of this part of the country and urban parts of this country is that we have our own ways, right? I don't know if y'all know what bounce money is. Y'all know what bounce money is? Y'all know what bounce money? If you're in rural parts, it means certain things. If you're in urban parts, it means certain things. That means some money that can be bounced to you, and you're supposed to what? Bounce it back, right? That's bridge money, right? So you want to think about this opportunity as more like bounce money. This ain't freedom money. You're not going to get free off of what the government has to provide, what the government owes you. That's not what this is about. You want to be able to utilize it to the best of your ability, and you want to do it through a multi-generational lens. It's young people and elders and folks working together to solve some of the problems that we've been working at for years. You get a return on your investment that is generational at that particular point, because you got somebody who can actually show you how to do the work, right? And actually the person who's going to be responsible for it when you're gone, right? So that's the 7 generations, right? So you're doing it in a very particular way. I don't know any other part of the country that has a track record or a legacy of doing it in that particular way. That is the essence of SNCC. Hello, somebody. Right? So the revolution was happening, and young people were right front and center. And then at some particular point, they took over because they already had the set of relationships, more importantly, and the training. And they changed the world. This is how we do our work around these parts, around here, right? So there is a very important way that we can go back and fetch it, go get the money, and use it the way it's supposed to be used.
So with that, I want to thank you and share with everyone. A couple of key takeaways. We have to remain intentional around staying and preserving this moment, because this moment is actually what movement has been building for decades. In addition to that, how do we leverage those relationships and continue to deepen them, because that will be the thing that is transformational in this moment. And then the last piece is, what's the last piece?
Organize the money.
There you go, all right, organize the money. That's relationships. Okay, but with that, I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank you guys for the time. You have a small break as we transition the next group on, and we have our partners from the administration that will come and speak to some of the issues that we've been talking about.